Welcome to Bollywood Deep Dive from IndiaReview.com, your daily Bollywood news. Let's get into it.
And let's start with what feels like the only story that matters this week, which is the massive student-led CJP protest at Jantar Mantar in Delhi over the NEET exam controversy.
It is everywhere, and it feels like the industry is finally truly responding in a significant way, not just with tweets, but with physical presence. Salman was there, which is a huge deal. You also had cricketer Yuvraj Singh and several other notable figures on the ground with the students. And when someone of Salman Khan's stature shows up, it changes the entire dimension of the conversation. It absolutely does. It sends a message that this isn't just a niche issue for students and parents. It's a national concern. But what's been just as fascinating, and maybe a little bit spicy, is the reaction online to the stars who aren't there.
Oh, the digital picket lines are up. Gen Z is not playing around. They have been relentlessly tagging Amitabh Bachchan, Shah Rukh Khan, Akshay Kumar, Virat Kohli, basically the Mount Rushmore of Indian celebrity, with messages like "Wake up," "Install a spine," and "Your country needs you."
It's intense, but you can understand the sentiment. They see these figures as heroes on screen, people who fight for justice in 3-hour movies, and they're asking them to show a fraction of that courage in real life for a cause that affects the future of millions.
And while the biggest names are getting called out for their silence, a huge wave of other celebrities have been incredibly vocal on social media. Alia Bhatt posted a really heartfelt message saying the last few days have broken her heart. She wrote, "In solidarity with every student demanding accountability, justice, and hope for a future they can believe in." And she wasn't alone. We saw powerful statements from R. Madhavan, Kamal Hassan, Vijay Sethupathi, Varun Dhawan, Ananya Pandey, Sara Ali Khan. The list just keeps growing. It really does. Selena Jaitley shared her own experience of studying in 13 different schools and emphasized that even the biggest wars end in dialogue. Tennis star Sania Mirza also weighed in, saying there's no place for violence. It feels like a dam has broken, but it's also created these really complex situations. Look at R. Madhavan. He's being praised for speaking out, but at the same time, students from the FTII, where he is the president, are criticizing him for not doing more, for not being more forceful given his institutional role. That's a tough spot. It highlights the difference between being a celebrity expressing an opinion and being the head of an institution. The expectations are just different. You can't please everyone.
And then you have the other side of the coin. Actor Surya, whose birthday is this week, put out a statement asking his fans not to engage in any celebrations. Instead, he urged them to channel that energy into supporting the protesting students.
Now that is class. That is using your platform in a really meaningful, selfless way. He's redirecting the massive energy of his fan clubs towards a cause. That's impactful.
It's the polar opposite of, say, the video of Sonu Nigam that went viral, where a reporter asks him about the protests and he just waves his hand and walks away, refusing to comment.
The internet was so divided on that. Some people were furious, calling him a coward. Others were defending him, saying celebrities have to walk on eggshells and that silence is sometimes a necessary act of self-preservation in a volatile environment.
Both points have some validity, I think. It's a thorny issue. But then you get someone like Nasiruddin Shah, who doesn't just walk on eggshells, he stomps on them.
He really does. He came out with a blistering statement, directly calling out the Prime Minister and asking, has he accepted responsibility for any blunders? Nasiruddin Shah has never been one to mince words, and he certainly isn't starting now.
He is constitutionally incapable of mincing words. And in the midst of all this, you have Kangana Ranaut, who takes a completely different path. She posted a photo of the NEET topper, Vaishnavi Das, celebrating her and writing something along the lines of "Never met an atheist topper." Which is a very specific, very Kangana take. It's an attempt to shift the narrative away from the systemic failure and controversy and focus on a single story of individual success, framing it through a religious lens. It's classic counter-programming. It is. So you have this incredible spectrum of responses: physical presence, vocal online support, strategic silence, fan mobilization, direct political critique, and narrative reframing. It's a microcosm of the entire country's debate, played out through the lens of Bollywood. And it feels like a turning point. For years, the complaint has been that the industry is too silent, too afraid to speak. This week, it feels like that's genuinely changing. Let's hope so. Okay, from the political stage to the box office stage. And there is a massive new star on that stage, Thalapathy Vijay's political drama, Jananayagan. Oh, it is doing staggering numbers. It's recorded Kollywood's fourth highest opening weekend pre-sales ever. It's already grossed over 95 crore. The reviews are calling it an engaging entertainer, powered by Thalapathy Vijay's electrifying screen presence. That's no surprise. He has one of the most dedicated fan followings in the country. And with his recent entry into politics, a film with this title was always going to be an event. People aren't just watching a movie, they're participating in a cultural moment.
Exactly, and it's fascinating to see that kind of energy, especially when you compare it to the steady, reliable performance of a franchise film like Damal 4.
The unstoppable comedy machine. It just crossed the 190 crore mark worldwide on its 13th day. It's on track to become Ajay Devgn's 9th film to enter the 200 crore club. His 9th? That is an incredible record. It speaks to his consistency and the loyalty of the audience for that particular brand of comedy. People know exactly what they're getting with a Damal film, and they show up for it. It's cinematic comfort food. You just sit back and let the chaos wash over you. Meanwhile, in other box office news, Alia Bhatt's film Alpha is holding on. After 20 days, it's finally crept up to become the 8th highest Bollywood grosser of 2026. It hasn't scored a century worldwide yet, but it's finding its audience slowly. A slow burn. And right behind it, the film it just beat, Main Bapasanga, is wrapping up its run after 41 days. It's set to finish as the 9th highest grossing film of the year. It recovered about 92% of its budget, so it's not a huge hit, but it didn't lose money.
In this economy, not losing money is the new blockbuster.
That is painfully true. It's a respectable performance. But let's talk about someone who is not having a respectable run at the box office lately, and it's so surprising. Bobby Deol. It's such a strange trajectory. He had this massive career-defining resurgence with Animal. Everyone was talking about him. He was the moment. And since then, the headlines say he has had 5 back-to-back failures at the box office. 5? It's a stark reminder that a comeback role, no matter iconic, doesn't guarantee a string of automatic hits. The script still has to work. The film has to connect. It really does. And it seems there might be some behind-the-scenes drama on one of those films. Anurag Kashyap has now come out and publicly distanced himself from the film Bandar, which starred Bobby Deol. What did he say? He said, "Whatever came out is not my final cut." He explained that the version that was released was significantly different from his original vision due to editorial changes he didn't approve. Ouch. That's a filmmaker's worst nightmare. And it's a bold move to say that publicly. It basically tells the audience, don't judge me by this. It also might explain why the film didn't connect with viewers.
It could. A disjointed vision rarely leads to a box office hit. It's a shame for both of them, really. You hope a collaboration between Anurag Kashyap and a re-energized Bobby Deol would be something special.
Speaking of things not quite landing right, this next story is, well, it's a bit awkward. Oh, do tell. Deepika Chikalia, who is for an entire generation the definitive Sita from Ramanand Sagar's Ramayana, was asked about Sai Pallavi playing the role in the new Nitesh Tiwari version.
And let me guess, she was unconditionally thrilled and passed the torch with grace and enthusiasm?
Not quite. Her quote was, "She's a phenomenal actor, but I don't know how she'll look as Sita."
Oh, that is the most polite, backhanded compliment I have ever heard. That's the cinematic equivalent of bless your heart.
Right? It's loaded. She praises her acting ability, which you have to because Sai Pallavi is brilliant. But that "I don't know how she'll look" part is doing so much heavy lifting. It implies a very specific traditional image that she feels Sai Pallavi might not fit. It's understandable from her perspective. She embodied that role so iconically that for her, there is a fixed image of what Sita looks like. But it also feels a little gatekeepery. The whole point of a new adaptation is a new interpretation. Exactly. We don't need a carbon copy of the 1980s version. We need actors who can bring emotional depth and truth to the character, and Sai Pallavi has that in spades.
Absolutely. It's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. From creating epics to cutting them down, let's talk about the Central Board of Film Certification. They have been busy.
They always are. And this week we have a tale of 2 very different films. First up is The India Story, a courtroom drama starring Shreyas Taltade and Kajal Agarwal. The report is that the CBFC demanded over 20 cuts. 20? What were they cutting? A lot. The report from Bollywood Hungama is incredibly specific. It says 4 minutes and 27 seconds of footage were deleted. Dialogues like Kisan Athankvadi, which means farmers are terrorists, and Sarkar Destrohi, which means the government is traitorous, were modified.
Wow. So anything that could be seen as critical of the government or touching on sensitive political subjects was either softened or removed entirely?
That seems to be the gist of it. And what's more, the film reportedly got its censor certificate just 48 hours before its release. That's cutting it incredibly close.
That puts immense pressure on the filmmakers and distributors. It feels designed to make them accept any and all cuts just to get the film out on time.
Now, contrast that with the other film that went through the censor process this week, Sunny Deol's partition drama, Batwara 1947. A film about partition. Surely that must be full of sensitive material. How many cuts did that get? According to the reports, 0. 0? Not a single cut. It was cleared as is. Okay, make it make sense. A contemporary courtroom drama about farmers and the government gets chopped to pieces, but a historical drama about one of the most violent and sensitive events in the nation's history gets a free pass? The math is not mathing. The math never maths when it comes to the CBFC. It's always a bit of a mystery. The logic behind their decisions is often opaque, to say the least. It's what makes their rulings so endlessly debatable. It really is. It feels less about a consistent standard and more about the specific sensitivities of a specific moment in time. Speaking of specific moments in time, let's go back to the sets of Devdas. Sikander Kher, who was an assistant director on the film, shared a lovely story about Shah Rukh Khan. I love these little behind-the-scenes anecdotes. What did he say? He said he learned about the act of giving from watching Shah Rukh Khan. He talked about how generous he was, not just with his time or advice, but in his performance, how he always works to make his co-stars look good, to give them space in a scene. That's something you hear about him a lot, that he's an incredibly generous actor. It's not always about him shining the brightest, but about making the whole film better. That's a true superstar quality. It is. It's about collaboration, not just ego. And speaking of talented actors, Adil Hussain had some really interesting things to say about the freedom that OTT platforms have given him. He's always so thoughtful. What was his take? He said, "I get paid really well on OTT projects, and that financial security gives him the freedom to reject films he doesn't believe in." He specifically mentioned turning down a film like Animal. He was one of the people who was very critical of Kabir Singh, calling it misogynistic. So it makes sense he wouldn't be interested in its spiritual successor, right? And it's a fantastic point. For so many years, actors had to take on certain commercial roles just to pay the bills, which would then allow them to do one or two smaller, more artistic films. He's saying that OTT has changed that equation. The well-paying, artistically satisfying work can now be found on streaming platforms, freeing him from the commercial theatrical machine. That's a huge shift in the industry's power dynamics. It empowers actors to make choices based on artistic merit, rather than just financial necessity. Good for him.
And good for us because we get to see him in more projects he's passionate about. Now, for some quick hits from around the industry. Are you ready? I am strapped in, go. There are whispers that after the success of the trilogy, Anis Bazmi is in talks to direct Kartik Aaryan once again in Bhool Bhulaiya 4.
Of course they are. That franchise is a money-printing machine. It would be crazier if they weren't making a fourth one. Fair point. Also, director Anubhav Sinha is reportedly planning a massive high-octane action film and wants to bring together Tiger Shroff and Vidyut Jambal. Okay, hold on. Tiger Shroff and Vidyut Jambal in the same movie? The budget for breakaway tables and protein powder alone would be astronomical. The insurance policy for that film would be a sight to behold. But can you imagine the action sequences? It would be epic. My muscles hurt just thinking about it. What else you got? Shweta Tripathi is talking about her journey with the character of Golu from Mirzapur, as the series is now getting a film adaptation. She said she often meets young women who connect with Golu's resilience and her refusal to fit into a neat box. That character has had one of the most incredible arcs in modern Indian streaming. From a brilliant student to a hardened gangster, she's played it perfectly. A film makes total sense. Agreed. And on a lighter note, if you've got a spare 75,000 rupees a night, you can rent Arshad Varsi and Maria Goretti's 150-year-old restored Portuguese villa in Goa.
75,000 a night? Does Arshad Varsi come and tell you jokes for that price?
It doesn't say, but it does have solar panels and a mango garden. It's called Casa Zen.
For that price, it had better be. Okay, so if we pool our salaries for the next
6 months, we could maybe afford a weekend.
I'll start saving now. Let's do a live show from the Mango Garden.
It's a plan. And finally, let's wrap up with a story that's both sweet and a little bit sad. Mahesh Babu's nephew, Jaya Krishna, who is also an actor, was asked about his inspirations.
And he obviously said his uncle, the superstar Mahesh Babu.
Well, yes, but he also said that his biggest inspiration outside of his own famous family is Ram Charan.
Oh, that's really lovely. It shows such respect for his contemporary. In an industry that can be so competitive, it's nice to see that kind of open admiration.
It is. He praised his work ethic and his screen presence. It's a nice positive note to end on, a reminder that for all the competition and box office battles, there's also a lot of mutual respect and artistry at the heart of it all.
A perfect way to wrap it up.
Indeed.
Headlines se heartbeats tak. You've been listening to Bollywood Deep Dive from IndiaReview.com. Come back tomorrow. Namaste.